Do you like dragons? That was a trick question. There are two types of people in this world. Those who understand dragons to be the coolest fictional monster, and those whose opinions are worth less than a summer ant. Arknights has given us plenty of dragons to dig our teeth into. From fire dragons who sought to burn down oppression till a brighter world was all that remained, to a dragon god whose shadow haunts the world millennia after its fall. The Sui storyline has blessed us every year because on Chinese New Year, Arknights has to show its patriotism and release a new Sui sibling. As such, with a grand total of 7 Chinese New Years having passed since the game launched, there has been quite a lot of Sui events. So, of course, because they were lacking so much content, we needed an integrated strategies based around the dragons. Move over Seaborn, get lost demons, hell, get rid of those Sorkas. It is obvious that the most important thing in all of Arknights is the glorious land of not China. So today, before we tackle the next stage of the war against Sui, we will discuss the garden created by one of their proxies and the possible key to the future that garden holds. So Sui's Garden of Grotesqueries picks up immediately after Fantasy in the Mirage. Hint hint, watch that old video. If you haven't, or just don't want to, the TLDR is Lazy traveled into Mount Mang in search of a missing record keeper on the behalf of Zhuge Liang. Once there, shenanigans happen. Shenanigans that tie back to the wonderful dragon Sui's influence over the area. Regardless of the cause, Lazy gets to work solving all the problems in the town. From warding off assassins to uncovering the secret of the city being populated by both humans and geists. One of the Sui siblings, Yi, even lives in close proximity to the town. He's mostly busy tending to his garden, but he can spare some time for collecting important items. Unfortunately, things come to an end after a woman attempts to sell off a scroll written by Chong Ye to those hungry for the Grandmaster's secrets. A false version of Shu appears in the sky, and Waifu's bum-ass father picks a fight with it before plummeting from the mountaintop. He'll probably be fine, but we don't care for that right now. With Zhuge Liang arriving after the incident, he alongside Lazy and Record Keeper went after the woman behind the whole incident. The old Tianqi prevents them from apprehending her, and Mo Yi reveals why she set up this whole thing. The town of Mangshan was destroyed during the awakening of Sui over a century ago, and Yi had tasked his assistant construct Liang to clean up the area, and discovering the Geists were becoming more human-like, set them to the task of repairing the town in his stead. The remnants of Sui's destruction even began to get along with humans. With this in mind, Mo Yi stole the scroll of Chong Ye to allow her to meet with the Master of the Garden. In an attempt to prevent war with the bestial Sui, she will use a remnant of the lost proxy that resides within the garden. Sounds cool, but she's not coming with us. The Sui regulators travel to the garden to placate Sui every year in a rite to reinforce the seal on Sui's tomb. However, with Wang currently inside the tomb, nothing has yet been done. However, Yi has a plan for this. Liang instructs Zhuge Liang, Record Keeper and Lazy to enter the garden to provide him with assistance. And thus we come to the Garden of Grotesqueries. As the garden closes to the public, our trio begin their journey to the shrine inside the deepest part of the garden. Of course, this year there are going to be some special circumstances in the Placation ritual. Not only is Wang taking on Sui right now, but the remnants of the lost proxy haunt not only the Sui narrative, but our group's journey in the garden. And for once in integrated strategies, every ending is canon and tells one semi-continuous narrative. The end books that you unlock by beating all of the endings do in fact break this rule, but I would not worry about that because we are just not going to be talking about them today. The story of the Placation ritual is told in full, and I will not be breaking the flow of that narrative just to cover end books that don't add anything to that story. Those of you who have read the end books know that there are certain parts of it that would definitely benefit the story, but I intend to cover those later. Later being specifically in the First of 1,000 Autumns video. So, our Placation team spends their time trekking through the garden's seemingly never-ending maze-like structure. They meet figures from ancient Yan, defeat rampaging geists, get ripped off by not one but 2 merchants, and even have to light candles to fight through Sui's remnant consciousness. Eventually, however, they reach the Jianji Shrine. Located atop one of the tallest mountains within the garden, it is here where the Placation ritual actually takes place. You might assume it's some esoteric ritual involving all they have encountered, but no, it just involves jumping the garden's owner biblically. The final step of the Placation involves taking up the spirit of Sui and doing battle against one of its proxies. It does involve using the knowledge and might you gained within the garden, so traveling here was not for nothing. As Yi is the master of the garden and our trio cannot hope to harm him in his domain, this allows for the safe defusal of Sui's rage. As the rampaging Fahrenheit tires itself out, and is inevitably defeated by this invincible symbol of its fall, the Placation ritual comes to an end. Technically speaking, it is Liang the trio fight in the guise of Yi, but the same effect is reached nonetheless. When the fight reaches its conclusion, Yi interrupts the duel to send the trio on their way. Surrounding them is Sui's chi, pink and green mist that has been dispersed during the battle. Liang confirms to the group that the ritual was successful and the other Sui regulators and candle holders in the garden are withdrawing. Zhuo is somewhat dejected as he expected the ritual to be grander in scope. All that is left is for the party to claim the Jade Rule that serves as the official seal signifying a completed ritual. With a bit of bickering back and forth, the trio decide it is Lazy that shall carry it back to Baizhou. Before departing, Lazy asks Yi why the garden is left open to the public when it is not in use during the Placation ritual, and the answer he gives her is simple. The act of striking down the Fahrenheit was a public affair, so why should placating Sui be any different? In fact, since the garden became open to the public, every year the Placation ritual gets easier and easier. Yi hopes that one day soon, the public may even stand at this very temple overlooking Baizhou. Satisfied with his answer, the trio depart the mountain, although Yi does try to buy Zhuolei's sword off him before he departs. As they leave, Yi looks into the shrine and thanks his missing sister for the idea of opening this garden to the world. Even though the world has forgotten her, the Sui siblings never will, and he hopes his garden brings her joy. However, perhaps storing the memory of Jie wasn't the best idea just yet. As the trio make their way through the garden, they wander through Sui's consciousness. Within, they discover a butterfly made of elmwood. Its tiny front clings to an inkstick. The group assume it is a geist, but once it opens its mouth, the voice of a member of the Sui regulators, Liu, emerges from the butterfly. The butterfly tells them that it had finished its research on Shu's military teachings, and tells them that this inkstick can be used to remember the forgotten and reveal vestiges of the past. She has, however, forgotten to complete the carvings required to do this, but can do so if you offer the correct compensation. Butterfly has magical artifact if you have Originium ingots. Once you have paid up, the butterfly carves a coiled Sui onto the inkstick, and the moment she does, a bestial Sui rises from it in inky form and soars through the sky. The trio are left with the inkstick and no idea what their butterfly companion did, but decide to follow the inky dragon. The party continues through the garden where they must battle with this shadow of Sui. Eventually they drive it back to Jianji Shrine, and once they arrive to finish what they started, they come face to face with a fully manifested Sui. However, the trio prevail and strike the dragon down. As the dragon falls, Zhuo looks up in amazement. He had heard when Fahrenheit die, heaven and earth break down. However, this dragon is an imitation. It is not dying, but transforming into a scroll. Instead of blood and flesh, it is unraveling into paper, and as those pages fall, they fade away into nothingness. Eventually, enough falls away that Zhuo can gaze upon the heart of a god. It glows like the sun and beats slowly, like a woman in deep slumber awaiting her end. What he looks upon is no heart, but the remnants of the lost proxy. Her voice mouths something, but he cannot hear the words. They have been forgotten, as has she for 120 years. Looking upon her, he knows this is not Sui, but something else. Before the words can come to his mind, he finds himself awakening within Jianji Shrine. Liang stands above him and congratulates him on completing the Placation ritual before handing him the Jade Rule. Zhuo asks Liang what he saw within the memorial hall, but Liang feigns ignorance to his question. The party leaves, and before they depart, Zhuo takes one look back at the hall, seeing the inkstick now in Yi's care and a portrait of a woman inside. Long after they are gone, Yi expresses his surprise at them locating his sister within the garden. They were the first to enter the hall in over a century, and, taking hold of the inkstick, he is determined to find a way to write down what has transpired, as all will be for naught if he fails. While traveling through the garden for the Placation ritual, the trio stumble across a Weiqi board. Wait, haven't they done this already? No matter, there was Weiqi to be played. Liu, in the form of a butterfly, has been studying the board for quite some time before they arrive, and once they do, passes the game off to them. This is obviously a trick left behind by Wang, but the game must go on. Or it would if you didn't just flip the board. It spins through the air, each revolution revealing this strategy against you. One that lives amongst the mountains but is still obsessed with the battle atop the board. Only by performing a strange move like this will there be space for his next move. The board clatters to the ground and reveals a new grid of lines. In its center is a block with G and Ye carved into it. Look and page, or when combined, Jie. Taking the board with them, the trio continue their journey through the garden. Arriving at the Jianji shrine, the group delve even deeper into the garden using the Weiqi board. Finding themselves within the tomb of Sui, Wang stands before them. While he approves of their achievement, their ignorant intrusion angers him. Overcoming Zhuolei's swordsmanship and Lazy's thunder, the proxy's Weiqi stones fall upon his visitors. Just before heaven falls upon them though, they are whisked away by a cyan scroll. Liang places the group outside the memorial hall and gives them the jade seal before sending them away. Yi waits for them to leave before entering the memorial hall himself. Inside, Wang awaits his brother. He looks up at the remnants of the sister he has not seen for 120 years. Her name has faded from the portrait, but her expression remains the same as in his memory. Since his last attempt to kill Sui all those years ago, he has not dared to come here. He looks at the ink stick that survived her and hopes that someone may record her during this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Yi is curious why Wang stopped the trio as they both believed that they could bring her back. With over a century of reflection, Wang knows that they were being too reckless with their method. However, with the ink stick and a scroll discovered thanks to their journey, perhaps one more will reveal ink to record her existence. Merging the Weiqi board and block into a scroll and handing it to Yi, Wang entrusts him with finding that ink within Sui's fragmented memories, and maybe, just maybe, they will be able to bring their sister back. Sending the trio alongside Tianqi and Sui regulators through the garden once more, the group discovers an unsealed case, a box left behind by Yi in such a way to be easily accessible. Once within their grasp, they may touch the scroll to join Yi in altering history. In the depths of the garden, the boundary between Sui's remnant consciousness and reality is thin. Using the scroll provided by Wang, Yi pierces this veil to relive the time of the Great Hunt from Sui's memories. Traveling through the scroll, the group arrives in an army camp. Before them are two Faranmuts that leave no time for confusion. The last two Faranmuts stand before the army. The army hones their skills and polishes their swords beneath the watchful eyes of Sui. Bestial Zhu and Bestial Hu, Sui's former friends, face down the host of Yan. Despite the might of these gods, we know how this story ends. With the combined might of Sui and Yan, they are cast down. Zhu's body is scattered to the winds. The great forest that covers Hu's back withers away. In their final act of resistance, the pair pierces Sui's body. Despite defeating its opponents, Sui's body is ravaged by their wounds, and it collapses to the ground. Both Zhu and Hu fade from history after this point, much like how proxies do when they die. Perhaps a sign that their role in the story of Yan is not over. Liang once more removes the participants from the conflict and places them before the hall. Handing them the Jade Seal as proof of the rite's completion, the three descend the mountain. Record Keeper, however, lives up to his name and records everything he has seen. Despite the fact that their memories will be lost once all of this is over, he records it. That is his duty, as is it Yi's. After this battle, Yan ennobles the gods, and Sui falls into its slumber. Bai Zhao is constructed, and the era of Yan's prosperity begins. The True Lung, after all of this, finally approaches the fallen Sui. He looks upon this fallen god and honors his fallen ally as an equal. The True Lung opens his mouth to proclaim the end of the era of the gods, but before he can, the scroll is rolled up. Yi hands off the scroll to the Sui regulators and the Tianqi before sending them on their way. Their mission was a success, and their alterations have taken root in Sui's mind. Sui's awakening is inevitable, but thanks to this venture, its ability to alter human history has been altered slightly. Perhaps now, Yan has a way to settle the question of Sui. Yi unfolds a new scroll. In both size and shape, it is identical to the one the regulators have taken. In the place where it should be blank, there is instead a recreation of the end of the Great Wild Hunt. History plays out the same, except when the true Lung should ennoble the gods, he instead promises to grant Sui the guise of man. By the will of the Emperor, Yan slaughtered the gods, but now, by bestowing the last millennia of knowledge and emotion through the scroll, Yan has a new path available to it, a path of pardons and tolerance. Yi continues to unfold the scroll, and where there should have been a drawing of Sui, there is now a single drop of ink. No matter if this represents Sui's memories, doubts, or its own incomplete humanity, with this dot of ink, words can be written, books can be scribed, fields of study can be established, and men can be made. Yi ponders the scroll for a moment before entering the Jianji Shrine. Before the door of the Memorial Hall, Yi wets his finger with cloud and rain and dabs at the spot of ink on the scroll. He tentatively presses his finger against the plaque, and so, for the first time in 120 years, words which were her domain are written within her halls. A record of Jie that should not exist. There is, however, one last journey our cast of misfits must go through before the end, and that requires them to meet with Wang one more time. Yi fetches the long ink scroll. Each of the group's trips through the garden left behind a precious mark, and the assembly of such remnants means that the garden and the tomb holds no more secrets for them to uncover. Thus, the creation of an instrument is allowed. Humanity's determination creates a path for the Sui proxies. The marks leave the ink and coalesce into gears, the past assembling into a structure that can power an endless search. The moment it leaves Yi's hands, countless figures can be seen. Bestial Sui and the myriad of possibilities of its awakening are revealed, allowing Wang to plan ahead. Overcoming a shadow of Shu awards Wang with a little Moji, an Inkgeist fed with the memories of the Sui proxies. It is not capable of much, but allows Wang to break apart the defenses of Sui, preventing the erosion of humanity by Sui, although it requires the trio to take action to overcome the Dragon God. Compressing all the battles they have fought into one final moment, Sui awakens and absorbs all of its proxies into itself, before stealing the body of Chongyi to do battle with Wang. Unlike 120 years ago, Wang is prepared to put an end to Sui's delusions this time. He harnessed the power of his siblings and used the stalemate between the humanity of the proxies and Sui's bestial nature to prevent it from breaking out of its delusions. Little Moji consumes these delusions of Sui, and once it has eaten its fill, Wang prepares to send it on its way. He turns to Lazy and offers her the seal. He offers her no explanation, and banishes her and her companions from the tomb. Even if he had answered her questions, those leaving the garden would not be able to remember the answers. He's always been stingy with his words, so why waste the threat now? This is as far as humanity can go. It is up to him now. This aspect of him, one of the 181 pieces, must continue to play with the unawakened god. Only by sending them and the little Moji away, only by stripping away all humanity and mercy, can Wang let go and face Sui's ever-evolving, bone-snapping, marrow-sucking malice. Before the one move where he grasps life, he has already extinguished his hope. And that, my friends, is Sui's Garden of Grotesqueries. The story of Wang, and by extension all of the Sui proxies' battle against their creator, as well as their dream for the return of their sister, is a story that will be concluded elsewhere. I am going to hold your hand when I say this. The conclusion of this battle is told to us in First of a Thousand Autumns, so look forward to seeing that in like a week. I did say I wasn't covering the endbooks earlier in this video, so in lieu of an apology, just know it is because I am lazy. Yeah, that's it. You're not getting a better excuse. There is a lot of cool information there, especially around the fourth ending, with Sui intending to become a cosmic being and allowing humanity to surpass even the predecessors. However, such things are dreams and not to be taken too seriously. Even the other Ferrenmet bullied him for these delusions of grandeur, which is probably why Sui decided to help wipe them out. And besides, like I said earlier, I want to save some of the reveals for that First of a Thousand Autumns video. You may or may not understand this decision after that video comes out. I will, however, accept any and all abuse for this decision in the comments. It's not like I didn't tell the whole story of Sui's Garden of Grotesqueries. I am just leaving out the parts you get by actually playing it. Besides, I have been late to covering most of the events this year, and I would rather not have that trend continue. Watch this age horribly, as I am also late to finishing the First of a Thousand Autumns video. Regardless, this is a quick one for you, so hopefully there will not be too much of a delay with getting that shit out. I must say that although I did like the story this event told, I'm not sure I preferred over any of the other integrated strategies aside from Phantom and the Crimson Solitaire. Yes, the Sui are cool. Yes, the Ferrenmid are cool. But was it necessary to take this part of Wang's motivation and put it here? Maybe not. However, I do accept that they do need to have a little bit of setup for the revival of GA. Although, putting that setup in an event that requires people to play the roguelike game mode is probably not the smartest idea, because I do know a lot of people don't like integrated strategies. At least we got to see dragon forms for a lot of the Sui siblings. That makes it all watered in my mind. Regardless, let us part ways here. Shout out to the wonderful members of the factory. You are all truly wonderful, and I promise that I will never treat you like Yi treats Liang. Y'all be good people, and I will talk to you in the next one. Listen, I know it's not the first integrated strategies to do it, but we need to bring back encountering the sexy Sorkas again.